Hi guys, I'm Lauren Foy. You're watching The Dirty Sheets and this is Popcorn.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 1 of Popcorn, the newest show right here on the Dirty Sheets Network. My name is Greig, and on this inaugural episode, we'll be talking about the 2008 film starring Mickey Rourke, The Wrestler. So, joining me from London, England, it's Dirty Jesus himself, Billy.
Hi, welcome to your permanent spot on the A feed.
Oh, shit.
Oh, that voice you hear is, of course, Nick from New York.
Yeah, I figured, I'm not going to be regularly on this show, but for the first episode, I'm going to make it happen.
It's that guest appearance for the first, yeah.
Exactly.
And last but not least, we have the host of the Beauty and the Beast show on the Realm Network. It's Sarah Russi.
Hey.
What's up, Sarah? So I guess you're the belle of the Realm Network, huh?
I guess so.
There you go.
And the daughter of Vince Russo.
That's what the rumor is.
That's it.
You're what? Oh,
it's not a rumor.
Yeah, I am. I am his daughter.
Jesus.
Breaking news here on
Popcorn.
Popcorn.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it, see? Tune in next time.
Sarah, aside from being Vince's daughter, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
So I live in Pittsburgh right now. I'm originally from Boston. I do a lot of lingerie modeling and acting, and I host my own podcast on Vince Russo's network.
Look at that. So there you go, guys.
You should know that I was on it.
Yeah, he was on it too.
I know
he was
you
on
were
the
on it,
last
Billy.
episode we
There
did.
you go. Was Billy a good guest?
Yeah, he was an awesome guest.
Glad to hear it. All right, so we're talking about The Wrestler today, boys and girls?
That's the one. So basically, yeah, that came out in 2008 and pretty much brought Mickey Rourke back to the limelight for a little while. And the one thing I wanted to ask you guys, the main thing when I watched this movie again for the show, it pretty much confirmed my initial thoughts from the last time I saw it, which was, it's a good movie, but it's really depressing.
Yeah. It's super depressing.
There is no good that comes of it. Like, you think that he's moving on to something good, and he doesn't necessarily fuck it up for himself. Like, it's a combination of just bad luck and kind of fucking it up for himself. But yeah, I mean, there is no consistent happy moments in this movie, which is surprising why I like it. Surprising that I like it so much, and I'm able to watch it over and over. Like, I think I've watched this 6 or 7 times, a couple of times just for this. But yeah, it's an easy watch, even though it is quite depressing.
Yeah. That is very true. I mean, it's a good movie though. So what if it's depressing, right?
Yeah, that's right. Depressing doesn't mean it's a bad movie. I just think, it's kind of like an old school, Greek tragedy in a sense when you think about it. If none of those stories had happy endings either. So.
Let's address the elephant in the room, though, guys. Would this movie have been better if the original star who they wanted to play be in it be Hulk Hogan?
That's not true.
No.
That's one of those Hogan stories.
I know. I'm just making it.
Well, he couldn't be in the movie. He had to go play bass for Metallica.
Oh, there you go.
Sarah, had you seen this before? Did you seen this before we got you in for the review, or did you watch it just for this?
I watched it just for this.
Oh, okay. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was very depressing. It made me think well, how is my life gonna be when I get older? I hope it doesn't end up like that.
Yeah, I mean,
you hope Vince doesn't leave you, not talk to you for years and years, like Mickey Rourke does with his daughter in the movie.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about that for a little bit. So, the movie basically is based on a wrestler down on his luck. Do you think that they had anybody in particular in mind? I've heard rumors that the guy came up with the idea, Aronofsky came up with the idea for this movie, watching Beyond the Mat.
when you watch it, you do see shades of like Jake, and then there's funk in there for the hardcore. A lot of it's sometimes linked to Flair, but I don't see too much Flair there, other than just carrying on too long.
Yeah.
But I mean, what they don't really, they've gone down the route of him being him continuing being more necessitated through a lack of income, as opposed to being in love with the business. Like, he has a lot of outgoings.
Yeah,
with
but
his,
he's in love with the business too, dude.
It's a combination, but it isn't so much. So, like, it's not an Undertaker story where you've got 15 properties and millions and millions and millions tucked away like the Undertaker has, and you just can't leave. That's what the Undertaker is. This is a lot more like a Flair or Jake the Snake, where, I mean, Flair has got the 4 divorces, otherwise he'd be all right. So in Jake's case, and for a lot of others, it's just a case of carrying on because you don't know what else to do, and you have such high living expenses. I mean, even though this guy lives in a shitty trailer park, like, he still has tanning and steroids and all this kind of shit, and that stuff is not cheap. The only other weird thing is that they go straight in at this point, and I think I said to Greg off the air previously, like, it would have been interesting to see another movie in terms of how he felt like this. They don't really cover that. I guess that's the only part of the film where I think that they missed out on something. But I was going to say it's the only negative part. The whole film is negative, but that's not a negative. That makes sense.
Right. Yeah. No.
Yeah, it's more of Do you think it would have been better if they'd have had like flashbacks or something where he was
that's
young
what we
and
said.
in his prime?
Yeah. I'm trying not to like. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but obviously none of that has aired. But yeah, we talked privately. Yeah, we said our idea we come up with would have been flashbacks in terms of when he was great and then how he's got into this position. But I mean, again,
but I think the movie still works out like this because it's like, yeah, you don't see any of that, but it's all obvious. He's got a toy. The guy at the supermarket remembers him. And it's like, do you need to see?
Yeah, it's more like, where did the money go there? But we do get an inkling with the steroids and the tanning and the partying and all that kind of shit that goes on.
Yeah, drugs and strippers, pretty much. Yeah.
I mean, is anyone like anyone like in particular pick up on or basically did anyone relate to how familiar this was with the real like wrestling scene? Did anyone like watch this and think, oh my God, they've got that spot on, or oh my God, they've got that so wrong? I mean, I've been in wrestling locker rooms and stuff, and for me, it was all done perfectly. Or was somebody, like, for example, Sarah, like, were you like completely surprised with how the whole stuff was done backstage?
I don't know. I don't think I was like surprised by it.
Because being there, like, that is that in that at that level, that is a wrestling locker room where they're going over the moves and they all go around and like shake hands, and they do actually lay matches out that way. And then they do
I mean, those were wrestlers, right, in real life.
Yeah, but that is a locker room atmosphere copied completely. And I guess
I
what I was
wouldn't
trying
be
to say
surprised if they let them improvise those scenes where they're talking about their matches and stuff. Because he filmed a lot of those wrestling scenes at actual shows in New Jersey.
Right.
And they would say,
yeah. So I'm not the I'm the only one that really thought that was particularly special.
Well, I've never been in a wrestling locker room. I mean,
yeah, same. I thought it looked legit, but it was like how, like, I assumed that's what it would be like, but it's a movie. So and like Nick said, I've never been in a wrestling locker room, so it's tough to
call.
Tough to know.
Yeah, I mean,
it's tough to judge the authenticity of it.
If they did it the way Nick said, then that's really like clever way to do it, because that would make a lot of sense as to why it came off so well. But watching it, I just felt it came off really well because it's so close to how it is. It just reminded me exactly of. I mean, the thing is, I asked Sarah specifically because when I went into the locker room, it surprised me that it was done that way. But because I've seen it and actually been there, I'm surprised it like. You guys are so like, oh yeah, that's what I expected, because I really didn't, and I'm only like completely familiarized with it because I've been in it. I've been in that.
So
what
had you
shitty...
expected?
I don't know. Like, I just didn't didn't expect this kind of like.
You beat the shit out of him. Oh, you're working the leg. Oh, I didn't know you were working the leg. My bad.
That's it. Yeah, just the overhearing conversations, like this kinship that everybody has. Like they're all like working separate matches, but they're all together. It's like, you got the leg in your match, and
I've
you
done
got the
plays, and I'm sure Sarah, you've done plays and stuff like that, right? At points.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the way any backstage is. Everybody's talking and going over their shit, and what are you gonna do in this? Like, how are you gonna play this? What are you gonna do there? That's kind of just the way it is.
Right.
Sarah, what would you say do you think that this is you do entertainment? Do you think that this is a reflection of wrestling or in specific or entertainment in general?
I think it could go for both because I think, well, with my industry and modeling,
I mean, there's a lot of similarities between wrestling and modeling. Let's not get confused, right?
Right. It's like the older you get, it's like they want the younger people. But it's like that sort of thing.
Right.
Like.
So you would identify with Marissa Tomei then in the movie,
that's
essentially,
what I was going to say. Like we did have the stripper story like running exactly parallel to his, and they seem to be going through the same dilemma.
Yeah, like as he gets older and can't wrestle anymore, he sort of faces that, but she's sort of facing the same thing.
Tomei, but she has an escape plan. She's got, she's buying a house and she's moving out. She's got her kid. It's a whole different.
Yeah, but she hasn't really. Like she has it in theory, but she's not getting any closer to it.
Well, she's building the house, isn't she? Doesn't he see like pictures of them building the house?
No, I don't think so. I think she has a plan, but I don't think she's
not
where she wants to be.
Right.
Yeah. So Sarah, do you think that Marissa Tomei's character was kind of like, how realistic do you think that sort of is as far as like the pressure on to be young forever?
Yeah, I think that like pressure is real, but I think you could strip at any age. I still think like you could strip at like anywhere from 50 and up and still make money. Right. Why not?
So, but you don't think the main money, like, so for example, like with the age you are now, you don't think there's like a 10, 15-year window to make your major money at your peak? Like these are like your peak years. If you're going to be paid for your appearance, like you have to do it now. Like your maximization is going to be right now in the next 10, 15 years.
Right. But I don't know. I think there might be some guys that are into older women too. So there could be a whole different audience for that. So maybe that's not necessarily the case. I don't know. I've never been a stripper, so I don't know.
It's different. Yeah.
But even with modeling though, even though with modeling though, it's the same though, isn't it? In terms of
Billi,
like
you've done modeling too, so.
Well, that's the thing. I have, and I'm not doing it now, so that kind of says. I mean, I'm not trying to. It's hard to do it after reality TV, but I mean, there are other situations that like I related to more in terms of like, for example, when he was going to work in the what was he doing? Where he cut his finger? What was he doing?
Supermarket.
He was in the deli. Yeah.
Yeah, he was in the deli, but so in terms of where he didn't want to get recognized doing that, I've been in that situation before where I've spent like there was a little period of a couple of months where I was spending my Big Brother money recklessly, and I was really thinking what to do, and there was a tiny gap between me doing Big Brother and deciding to parlay that in using the database to do club nights and being able to like carry on finding a way to kind of stay relevant almost.
Right.
And I had to go back and take some like promo jobs. And after being on TV and doing promo, in fact, you were in the conversation like where we spoke to James George on the politics show.
Yeah.
Where me and him did an Aero Bubbles job.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to be on television and then giving out chocolates on the streets 18 months later.
And have people
like
recognize you even.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was a part where I completely related to, because in this industry, you get big jobs and then all of a sudden you have to go back. You can't just sit on your laurels and be like, oh, I'm on this level now. because sometimes you have to go down and do the shit jobs again, and then wait for another good one to come, and it's up and down, up and down. I mean, Sarah probably finds the same thing. Like it's just up and down all the time. You can have a great job that pays 4 figures or even 5, and then sometimes you're doing stuff for £100 a day again.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, what do you think the message of this movie was supposed to be?
Don't wrestle.
Don't wrestle. Save your money. Go to school.
Yeah.
There's a lot of messages, isn't there? Like it's like, look, if you're working in the entertainment industry, like I guess it's to save your money. I guess it's also.
I think it's more of a look as well of like what kind of person what kind of person wants to be a wrestler, or what kind of person wants to be in the limelight.
Yeah.
You know, like he essentially gives up his life with his daughter at one point in his life. You don't see the exact point, but you know, when he catches up with his daughter, she sort of says how, you were never there and you left me and all this, and then he obviously feels bad about it because he says, I don't want you to hate me and all this kind of thing, but then he can't not be himself, so he has to go out and go drinking, and then he messes everything up with his daughter again.
Do you sympathise with him, though? Do you sympathise with him?
Yeah, I do. What you see of him in this movie, I sympathise with that. But you don't know exactly if we'd have seen like flashbacks and stuff like we were talking about before.
Yeah.
And where if he was like ignoring his daughter or something like that, then you might not feel bad for him.
Yeah, but do we sympathise as men though? Because obviously there's that part where he fucks that girl in the toilet, and that's really his bad. But like as men, we can understand why you do that, because when it's on tap, you take it, don't you? But
I think it's more
the guy's fucking old, and he's trying to restore a relationship with his daughter, and that was not the time to do it. But
right, so are we sympathising as men though? Like, I mean,
I think he's just a sympathetic character, but you also have to sympathise with his daughter. I think they're trying to have a complex.
Well, I sympathise with him in the sense of like if you watch like a movie about like a drug addict or something, or an alcoholic, where you're like, oh, I like this guy, but he just can't help himself. Right. You know, like he's his own worst enemy. So it was that kind of thing is where I felt bad for him. It was like, oh, look, he did all this good stuff, and he reconnected with his daughter, and they were getting along, and it looked like they were going to be happy, and then and he fucked it all up, you know. And then by the end of it, she is just like completely done with him, which, you know, and that sort of is this downward spiral for him then, where he sort of throws away his chance to go off and be with Marissa Tomei, and then he's like, fuck this, I'm just going to go wrestle anyway, even though like my heart can't take it. And then it's just this, you know, he systematically loses everything in his life, and then in the final match, like, you know, well, you know.
But Marissa Tomei fucks him around as well. That's the thing. Like she's.
But at the end, she has her sort of epiphany though at the end, and it's kind of like, no, I'm out now. I'm not going to do it. I'm here. I want to be with you. But by then, he's already too far gone. So it's kind of too little, too late.
Sarah, do you have sympathy for him as a woman?
Yeah.
Okay.
You do. So tell us about that. Why? What makes him be a sympathetic character?
I guess because he's just like following his passion, which is wrestling, and society is pretty much telling him he can't do it anymore.
Right.
Yeah, and his body as well telling him. I guess it's telling me he can't do anything. Well, yeah. But I mean, it's different because like you had these like parallel stories going, and I honestly didn't pick up on how parallel they were at the same time. I mean, Nick's saying that she's saving for this house and stuff, but I don't know how close she really was to that. Seemed like something that she came up with like when it was too late almost.
Well, from what I was seeing, it seemed like she was on her way there, but that's a whole nother conversation. So here's one question I have for you guys. Does he die at the end?
I was going to say, I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
I think he does.
You think he's dead?
Well, at the end, I wasn't sure. I mean, I just watched it and I was like, what the fuck? What just happened? I didn't expect it to end that way.
Did you like that ending though, or did you think it was like just too dark? Like it was. Did you think like it was dark, and at some point it needed a happy ending, or did you think it was perfect?
I kind of liked it, but at the same time, it kind of left me hanging. I think he knew he was gonna die, though.
Yeah, I think he's dead.
He tears up a bit. Yeah. Mm.
I think he's dead.
You think it's almost like borderline suicide then, taking the leap off the top?
I think so. Yeah.
That would be
especially with the speech he does at the start of before the match too, where it's like, they told me I was washed up and all this, and the only people who tell me, when I'm done is you people and me and things like that. So he kind of, I think it's more of a like, well, I can't wrestle anymore. This is literally going to be my last match.
Yeah,
right.
To me, it's a guy who doesn't fit in anywhere in the world.
Yeah,
except for in that ring.
I've got no friends. I threw my job away, even though it was a shitty job, but I threw it away. His like would-be girlfriend he's pretty much rejected her because she took too long, in a sense, to sort of accept him. And then when he looks up to the curtain, she's gone. Yeah. So she's like, I'm not going to watch you kill yourself, essentially. So he and his daughter, he's got nothing with his daughter. So he literally has nothing left at the end. So I think he's like, I'm gonna go out doing what I love, type thing.
There's a lot of truth to this story arc, and tell me if this makes sense to you guys as well, and you, Sarah, as a. But his character reminds me a lot of like a Michael Jackson, someone who has no friends, doesn't get along, is completely ostracized from the world, and the only place that he excels is on stage in front of his fans, and does it until the day he dies, even prematurely.
I didn't notice that, actually. That's the first time I've heard that analogy.
I just came up with it just now.
And he hangs out with kids.
Jesus Christ, Greg.
But does that make sense to you? Am I right there or what?
He does hang out with kids in a caravan, yeah. I remember that part now.
In a trailer park, yeah. No, I think you're right, Nick. I think it's a good comparison for like when you're not in the limelight. Like, who was Michael Jackson when no one else was around? Was he just a normal guy? Was he?
He had all the success in the world. He was, obviously worth millions and millions of dollars, but
exactly.
At the end of the day, it didn't matter.
Couldn't walk down the street though,
Right.
So, basically, if I was to give out an alternative ending, which I have in mind here, in terms of like taking into consideration how they ended it, do you think that this ending would have worked? So I'm just going to go around the table and like the figurative table and just ask people. So he goes to the top rope and he sees that she's gone, and he doesn't jump. He just gets down and he just walks out of the arena. No, actually, Greg, do you remember exactly what I said to you? Like it wasn't that, was it? It was something along the lines of that.
Is that the one where he, like you said, he looks back, she's not there. He kind of gets down off the ring ropes and sort of walks out and he catches her before she gets to her car type thing. And it's like, oh, don't leave, I love you, and they drive off together or something like that. Was that?
Yeah, I think I can't
something
remember.
Like that?
Yeah, I think basically, I've said it to you previously when we were talking about this before. But yeah, it was basically along the lines of he's going to go, he just doesn't do the move and leaves, or in fact, no, I think this is better. They're calling him out. They're doing the coming to the ring and nobody's there, and Ernest Miller's in the ring. I think that it was the cat Ernest Miller, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
And he was going coming to the ring, Randy the Ram, and they play Randy the Ram. Like they just keep saying it, but he's not there. And in fact, he's got in his car with her, and they're driving back to hers instead.
That could be on the director's cut.
That would be cool.
Yeah, but
that would work, because then it's like she's given up stripping, he's given up wrestling, they've given up their kind of quote unquote.
But that would be a betrayal to the character, wouldn't it?
And they've.
Yeah, but that's the thing. He finally does betray the character because he's finally grown up and he's found something worth betraying it for. So, basically, we cut to the shot of the aisle and he's not there, and instead we pan over to him on the road and them two are in a car together. And they're driving. We don't know where they're driving to, and we don't find out. He still has that kind of undetermined ending. It's like, oh, where are those two going? But you don't find out. They're just they could be driving off a cliff for all we know. But
good writing is supposed to be where your characters are somehow changed at the end of the story than they are at the start. Otherwise, there's not much point to the story. So if that was the case in that would be a good little bit of storytelling with your ending, Billy, because then he has changed because he knows that he doesn't need wrestling anymore, and she doesn't need stripping anymore because they have each other. So it's kind of like
I don't know, man. The character also reminds me of like a Tony Soprano, where you think he's learned something, but at the end of the day,
well, it ends like The Sopranos.
It does end exactly like The Sopranos.
It just stops,
So I mean, if I was to ask each one of you, like starting with Nick and then going on to Sarah, like does that ending improve or make the film worse for you?
I think the ending's perfect.
Right.
I think that, well, I like it, but it just frustrates me when I watch movies that end in that sort of way, because I want to know what happens.
Right. You want the resolution.
Yeah.
But you didn't get it here anyway, though, did you? Or do you feel that you've seen enough to assume that he's dead? Like that's pretty clear cut for you.
I think it's pretty clear, but I can't be sure.
Yeah.
I think I agree with you because this film did really well, and I think they could have made another one if even with more prequel-y stuff in it. If they had any indication that he was still alive, I think they clearly wanted to kill him off.
I honestly think if you make another one, even if he survived, you kind of almost lessen the impact of this one. Like the whole movie, especially if you go back and watch it again, obviously it really does have that sense of finality about it. Like this is, like when like if he dies at the end, it's kind of like, well, this wrestler went sort of from highs to lows, and it's almost like a kind of a warning in a sense, I guess. Like,
right.
If you find the limelight and you get rich and famous, like this is kind of a like watch out, because this could happen to you in a sense.
With the way WWE like shove their women down your throat, I mean, I'd literally have a really terrible film coming into my head now where they could do The Wrestler 2, and it's his daughter that wants to like follow in his footsteps, and it's like a whole fucking journey to the women's revolution, and oh god, how awful does that be? So, like the history.
I don't think his daughter would ever want anything to do with wrestling after what it did to her family type thing.
Oh, well, she could have a son who wants to know what her granddad did, or that Marissa Tomei could be pregnant.
Well, Marissa Tomei has a son, and Randy gives her his toy, so maybe her son gets right into wrestling because of the Randy the Ram toy.
Yeah, or they just do a Rocky film with it. Like they start the second one, and Randy's actually in hospital, and he makes it, and her son wants to be a wrestler, and they just do a whole Rocky Balboa wrestling school thing and just completely change what it is. You could do it, easily.
I think you could do it, but I think part of the brilliance of this one is that it's a real
artiste movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like a one-off movie. It's like a film. Like it's Okay. I mean,
so I have two last questions. Here we go.
I have one. So
okay, here are my two last questions. My first question is this good or bad for wrestling? I'll start with you, Sarah. Do you think this was good or bad for wrestling?
I think it's bad. I mean, it's kind of like insinuating like steroid use.
Yeah. And just like they all die young and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting question because WWE shoved it, they really jumped on the bandwagon. They had him at WrestleMania. And
well, that was my question. That was what I was going to ask. I was going to go around and ask people and say, did WWE get on board because of the financial success, or did WWE enjoy the film? Because I mean, there's rumors going around. I think Greg, you told me that Vince McMahon was quoted as saying that he enjoyed the film.
He did say he enjoyed the film.
Right, yeah, so there was a few reviews. Like Vince McMahon apparently liked it.
Was that do you guys think that was down to the art or the financial success? And they jumped on because of that, or they jumped in because they thought it was
possibly.
They thought he deserved it because it was so creative. Like that doesn't sound.
Well, there's three major sort of names that pop up from when I was looking it up, and it was Vince McMahon said he liked it, which to me, I don't think there's any way to genuinely know whether he's telling the truth or not, because he might have just said that because of all the promotional stuff.
Right.
But then again, he may have liked it. So with Vince McMahon, you never know. Rowdy Roddy Piper apparently loved it.
Yeah.
And that to me seems like a completely genuine reaction. And he said, finally someone has told our story, like this kind of thing, which I think for someone like Roddy Piper, I think I could see how much he would love this movie. And of course, Jim Cornette hated it.
Yeah.
So
Jim Cornette called him a mark because
did.
he had his own action figure on the.
I think, of course, Jim Cornette hated it. Like, it makes our business look like shit. It makes all of us look like sleazebags. It makes us all look like con men, criminals. Like all that kind of stuff. Like promoters.
Sarah, do you know if your dad's watched this?
My dad?
Yeah, Vince.
Yeah,
Vince.
I believe he has.
Okay.
Do you know
I don't know if he likes it or not.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't know.
Well,
We should have asked him that. We had him on.
It made the industry look bad because it made it look like there's nothing left after a certain age.
I agree.
Right.
I agree with you, Sarah. I like the movie, but I think that I don't think it paints wrestling in a good way in any way. And like
What
typically,
movies do
like,
you think do paint wrestling in a good way?
Not many.
well, there aren't really any wrestling. There aren't really a lot. So I mean,
I think just the Rock generally being out there is the biggest
yeah.
positive for wrestling, and the fact that he came from it and is able to do that career. And I guess it leaves the door open for people that will always look at that, down that avenue, and say, oh, these people are talented, or they're churning out potential movie stars here and there. And it's always worth keeping an eye on, whether a Cena or I mean, let's be honest, like, you're gonna you guys aren't, but a lot of our listeners are gonna hate this, but Roman Reigns could walk into a film like any day of the week. Like, Roman Reigns could be the next
absolutely
could be the next Rambo. Like, could you telling me Roman couldn't play Rambo? He could easily play Rambo.
Yeah. Yeah, you're completely right. Yeah, Roman Reigns could be he might not be able to be a actor, but he could be a movie star. Like, no problem in the world. You know what I mean?
I'm surprised they haven't cast him in any of their studio films. Like, there isn't actually a film of Roman Reigns, is there?
But they're more interested in making him a wrestling star, I think.
Yeah, I think they're trying to get him. They want him more. Like, he's in the limelight so much for WWE that there's no real time for him to go off and do these things, I don't think. Whereas, Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas, I mean, what are they doing? They could go be in movies. Even The Miz to a degree. Yeah.
What do you think of Sarah? What do you think of Roman Reigns?
I'm not sure.
See, that's now if she doesn't like him, then I don't understand who he's for.
No, I mean, I just don't know much about him.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Anyway, would you say, if we sort of close out, what would you give this in a rating system? I don't want to do like stars, but let's do a thumbs up, thumbs down. Yeah, fucking stars. What about a thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs middle? We'll go with that.
Thumbs up. I loved it. I thought that it was like really relatable and depressing, but sometimes I like depressing movies. I just think it made me like really think, and I like movies that make me think.
There you go.
Cool. Nick?
Yeah, I would say definitely recommend this. It was obviously a critically acclaimed movie, almost won the Oscar. You should definitely. I've never met someone who hasn't liked.
Well,
this
he
movie.
almost won the Oscar.
That's what I mean. Yeah. But I've never met someone who didn't like the movie. I think Mickey Rourke really embraced the role, went full method, and was a fucking professional wrestler during this movie. Like, he was a wrestler.
And Billy, you'd be like me, thumbs up as well?
Yeah, definitely. They absolutely nailed it. Like, they went above and beyond in getting this correct in every detail, like from being in a hardware store to laying out the matches to where the wrestlers even go. Like, they do fucking go to strip clubs, and they do come on to strippers, and I can imagine that they would have an admiration for certain ones. And, like, I imagine everything here has spawned from is secondary to an actual story, which is how you get this level of accuracy. I can only think that it's just a combination of road story after road story after road story after road story, and then you get this at the end. And I think that's why it makes so much sense. And just that factor, like, obviously, it flows as well. It's an easy watch. It doesn't feel overly long. It doesn't feel like an episode of Raw or anything. But on top of that, what's contained within it is perfectly done. So yeah, definitely thumbs up.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. So Sarah, why don't you tell us?
What about you, Greg?
Yeah. What about you, Greg? Actually.
Yeah. No, I think it's done. I think it's done perfectly, pretty much. I think, yeah, it's a downer ending, but it fits with the rest of the film. And I think it's almost. If it was like, I like your ending, Billy, where it's kind of a bit ambiguous, like, they sort of drive off together and you think, well, off they go. But if it had been the perfect happy ending, like, I don't know, he just gets to wrestle again, or, Vince McMahon turns up and gives him a contract and, or whatever, I think that would sort of ruin the whole thing. I like that it's kind of this downbeat sort of like downward spiral of a film in a sense, because that also gives actors the best material to work with as well. Like, acting is reacting in a sense, and so you want to see people react to circumstances or other characters and things like that. And I think this one is done, like, there's no bad scenes acting wise. It's either Mickey Rourke with Marissa Tomei and you get their chemistry and back and forth, or you get Mickey Rourke with the daughter and there's that whole backstory. And then, of course, there's just the all-round. I mean, Mickey Rourke carries scenes by himself in this movie. And I'm like, that's tough to do with little dialogue when he's by himself, because obviously he's not talking to himself. Yeah. So.
Well, guys,
I think,
just as a heads up, go on YouTube. There's an interview with Mickey Rourke and Darren Aronofsky, who's the director, talking about how they made this movie and about the background and where they got the stories from, and Mickey Rourke's initial reaction to playing a wrestler, because he was a boxer in his youth, and his initial reaction to playing a wrestler and why he came on board. It's really interesting watch, because it goes through the whole thing and about how they made the movie and all that stuff. So,
yeah.
Well, I can reveal at this point as well, just before we close out, that as you have been reviewing our shows, in order to get that interview, the interview that will be going out will be with one of the people that's heavily linked to this film and character, Jake the Snake Roberts. We actually did get an interview with Jake the Snake Roberts, and it's obviously a massive thing for us, and that's why we ask people to go onto iTunes and review our shows and give us 5 stars and stuff, because that's important for us to get sponsors and whatnot. And that will be coming out after this, our interview with Jake the Snake Roberts on DS247. So I think it's a perfect time to announce that, seeing as we're talking about this film and Jake's so closely linked to it.
Yep. So Sarah, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you and what you're up to?
They can find me on Instagram and Twitter on Sarah Russi, SarahRussi.
Excellent. And you do a
That's
show.
That's Russo with an I.
Yeah, Russo.
Yeah, exactly.
And you do a show with Vince. How often?
I try to do it about once a week.
Once a week. And what's that called?
The Beauty and the Beast Show.
Okay, Beauty and the Beast, and you can find that on the Realm Network. You know where to find us at Dirty Sheets Pod. Greg is at Greig T13. Billy's at Billy Body, and I am at Nick_from NY. Greg, what else do you have to say here?
Basically, yeah, of course, Popcorn is now the newest show here on Dirty Sheets, and our next show will be, and every show going forward, the topic will be, or the movie that we cover will be chosen by you guys, the listeners, based on our Twitter poll. So basically, we'll put up 4 movies, and whichever one you guys vote for the most, that wins the poll. That's what we'll cover, no matter what. So it doesn't matter what movie it is, we will review it if you guys choose it. So the first 4 films that we're going to put up on the poll, just to get a bit of variance in things, the first one will be the 1990 crime mafia movie Goodfellas. We're also going to throw up the 1987 Arnold Schwarzenegger classic Predator. For a bit of comedy, we're going to put up from 1999, it's American Pie. And of course, just to show that we will review anything if you guys choose it on the poll, we're going to go a bit off center and go with a movie from 2004, the romantic movie The Notebook. So they're the 4 movies you guys will choose from.
I know which one I want to hear.
Yeah, we've got Goodfellas, Predator, American Pie, and The Notebook.
Sarah, so which one would you vote for?
Say the names again.
The names are Goodfellas, Predator, American Pie, or The Notebook.
Well, I only know about 3 of those, I think.
Okay.
So maybe American Pie.
Okay.
Yeah,
I haven't seen American Pie.
You haven't seen American Pie?
I haven't seen any of the movies you mentioned.
Wow.
Oh, you should definitely see American Pie.
And Goodfellas.
Yeah.
And
I
Notebook.
haven't seen the first 2.
Really?
Yeah, I
haven't seen.
No, I
Oh,
haven't
man.
seen Goodfellas or Predator.
Predator
Oh my God, Billy,
Oh,
get
my
on
goodness.
that.
Yeah, it's got Jesse the Body in it. It's got Arnold in it.
Yeah. Goodfellas.
Yeah, I
is
think I've
amazing.
seen bits and pieces I tried to watch it as a kid, but I think it just got turned off.
Oh. Well, there
All
you go.
right. Well, there you go. What else do we have to say, ladies and gentlemen?
Well, that's pretty much it, I think. So,
So why don't you close
yeah.
it out, Greg?
alrighty. So, like we said, there's the Twitter poll will be up at Dirty Sheets Pod, and of course, those 4 films again: Goodfellas, Predator, American Pie, and The Notebook. Whichever one wins the poll, that's what we'll review. And yeah, you can hear more from us going forward on Popcorn.